The council chamber was quiet. Too quiet. 50 representatives from different worlds sat in their seats, staring at the numbers on the giant screen. The numbers told a story that nobody wanted to believe. 47,000 aliens had entered human space in the last 10 years. Not one had come back. Tay stood at the back of the chamber, watching the debate. They had been a special investigator for the Galactic Council for 15 years. They had seen many strange things in that time. But this was different. This was impossible. "They must be killing them," said the representative from Valor. His voice shook with anger. "What else could explain it?" "Perhaps they are keeping them as slaves," suggested another voice. "The humans have always been secretive about their colonies." "Or experiments," whispered someone else. Biological experiments. Tay had read all the reports. 3 investigation teams had gone into human space before. The first team had 6 members. The second had 12. The third had 20, all armed and ready for trouble. None of them had sent back a single message. None of them had come home. The humans claimed they had tried to send explanations. They said their messages were getting lost or ignored. Nobody in the council believed them. How could thousands of people just disappear without a trace? How could 3 entire investigation teams vanish? "We need to know the truth," the council leader said. Her voice was firm. "We need someone to go into human territory and discover what is happening. Someone who can get out alive." Tay stepped forward. "I will go." The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to look at them. "Alone?" the council leader asked. "Yes, alone. A large team attracts attention. One person can move quietly, one person can hide." Tay kept their voice steady. "I have done this kind of work before." "The others who went before you also had experience," the Velor representative said. "They also believed they could succeed." "I know the risks," Tay replied, "but we need answers. The trade routes are closing. Families are demanding to know what happened to their loved ones. Every day we wait, the fear grows stronger. Someone must go." The council leader looked at Tay for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. You will have the best equipment we can provide. Stealth technology, hidden weapons, and a dead man switch." Tay knew about dead man switches. It was a device that would automatically send all their data back to the council if they failed to check in every 48 hours. If something happened to Tay, at least their findings would reach home. 2 weeks later, Tay sat in their small ship at the edge of human territory. The preparation time had been intense. Scientists had briefed them about human biology. Tactical experts had taught them escape routes. Medical staff had implanted the dead man's switch under their skin. Everyone had looked at Tay with the same expression. Pity. They all thought Tay was going to die. Tay checked their equipment one more time. The stealth field was working perfectly. Their ship would be almost invisible to human sensors. They had enough supplies for 3 months. Their cover story was simple: a merchant looking for new trade opportunities. "This is border control," their computer announced. "You are approaching human space. Prepare for security scan." Tay's heart beat faster. This was it. The moment when they would cross into the territory that had swallowed 47,000 people. Their finger hovered over the weapons control. If the humans tried to capture them, they would fight. But nothing happened. The scan completed. Then their communication system beeped. "Unknown vessel, this is Human Border Station 7. Welcome." The voice was cheerful. Actually cheerful. "We're reading you as a solo merchant ship, is that correct?" Tay hesitated. They had expected threats, demands, maybe weapons fire. Not a welcome. "Yes," Tay replied carefully. "I am a merchant, looking for trade opportunities." "Excellent. We love traders. Listen, there's a solar storm brewing in Sector 7. I'd avoid that area for the next few days if I were you. Also, you're going to want to dock here for a bit. Our coffee is actually decent, not like that recycled garbage most stations serve. I'm Captain Wu, by the way." Tay stared at their communication panel. This had to be a trick, a way to lure them in. But their mission was to investigate, not to run at the first sign of friendliness. "Thank you for the warning," Tay said. I would be happy to dock. Great, sending you the coordinates now. Fair warning though, our cook makes this thing called kimchi that might blow your taste buds off, but in a good way. 20 minutes later, Tay's ship settled into a docking bay. Through the window, they could see the station. It looked normal, clean, well-maintained. Not like a place where people were murdered or imprisoned. The airlock opened. Tay stepped out, their hand near their hidden weapon. Captain Wu was waiting. He was a human male, maybe 40 years old, with a wide smile and friendly eyes. Welcome aboard. First time in human space? Yes, Tay said. You're going to love it here. Come on, let me show you around. As they walked through the station, Tay's confusion grew. The corridors were bright and clean. Music played softly from speakers, and there were aliens everywhere. Tay saw a Valorian working at a shop, a Morphean sitting in a cafe, a group of crystalline beings laughing together near a viewing port. None of them looked scared. None of them looked like prisoners. They looked happy. Busy place, Wu said proudly. We get about 300 ships a week through here. Traders, tourists, scientists, everyone's welcome. Tay stopped walking. Captain Wu, can I ask you something? Sure, anything. Those aliens, the ones living here, do they ever leave? Do they ever go home? Wu's smile faded just a little. That's a complicated question. Some do, most don't. But hey, you just got here. Let's get you that coffee first, then you can ask around yourself. Talk to whoever you want. We don't have secrets here. That was exactly what worried Tay. Places with no secrets usually had the biggest secrets of all. The cafe was warm and smelled wonderful. Tay had never smelled anything quite like it. Rich and dark and somehow comforting. Wu ordered 2 cups and sat down across from Tay. So, what do you want to trade? Wu asked. Tay barely heard the question. They were watching a Valorian merchant at the next table, the same species as the angry representative back in the council chamber. The merchant was reading something on a datapad and drinking from a cup like Tay's. Excuse me, Tay said to the merchant. Can I ask you something? The Valorian looked up. Of course. How long have you been in human space? About 2 years now. Best decision I ever made. My business has tripled. Do you ever think about going home, back to Velor? The Valorian's expression changed. Something flickered in their eyes. Why would I leave? Everything I need is here. But your family, your friends back home. They can visit if they want. The borders are open. The Valorian turned back to their datapad. Tay looked at Wu. The human was watching them with a strange expression. Not angry. Not threatening. Just sad. You're not really a merchant, are you? Wu asked quietly. Tay's hand moved toward their weapon. It's okay. We get investigators sometimes. You're not the first. Probably won't be the last. Wu sipped his coffee. I'm guessing the council sent you to find out what happens to people who come here. Tay said nothing. Well, you're here now. Look around. Talk to people. Find your answers. Wu stood up. Just one piece of advice. Keep an open mind. The truth is a lot stranger than whatever theories the council has come up with. He walked away, leaving Tay alone with their coffee and their confusion. This wasn't what Tay had expected. There were no guards, no weapons, no threats. Just a friendly human and a station full of aliens who didn't seem to want to leave. Tay activated their recording device and began their first report to the council. Day 1. No evidence of immediate danger. Aliens appear to live freely among humans. No signs of coercion. Continuing investigation. But even as Tay spoke the words, a small worry began to grow in their mind. If there was no danger, why did nobody ever come back? Tay spent the next 3 days on Border Station 7. They talked to everyone they could find. Merchants, workers, families. Every alien had come to human space for different reasons. Trade, exploration, curiosity. Some had come years ago. Some had arrived just months before. But when Tay asked about leaving, about going home, the answers became strange. Maybe someday, a crystalline shopkeeper said, not meeting Tay's eyes. The journey is long, a Morphean engineer explained. It's easier to just stay. Why leave when everything is good here? Asked a Valorian scientist. None of them said they couldn't leave. None of them said the humans were stopping them. They just didn't want to go, and none of them could really explain why. Tay sent reports back to the council every 48 hours, resetting the dead man's switch. The reports were honest, but confusing. No evidence of harm, no imprisonment, no coercion. But aliens do not leave, investigating the reason. On the fourth day, Captain Wu found Tay in the station's observation deck. Tay was watching the ships come and go through the large window. Human ships, alien ships, all moving freely. Find what you're looking for? Wu asked. I don't know what I'm looking for anymore, Tay admitted. Everyone here seems fine, happy even. But the numbers don't lie. Thousands of people enter human space and don't return. Wu was quiet for a moment. Can I show you something? It might help you understand. He led Tay to a medical center on the lower level of the station. A human doctor was there, a woman named Nari. She had kind eyes and gentle hands. Dr. Nari studies how different species adapt to life in human space, Wu explained. She might be able to answer some of your questions. Nari smiled at Tai. You're the investigator everyone's been talking about. Please, sit down. Everyone knows? Tai asked, alarmed. We don't keep secrets well, Nari said. Besides, you're not the first person the council has sent. You're just the first one who's been open about asking questions. The others who came before me, Tai said. What happened to them? They stayed, Nari said simply, just like everyone else who spends enough time here. Why? Nari pulled up a holographic display. It showed biological data, charts, and numbers that Tai didn't fully understand. That's what I've been trying to figure out. At first, we thought it was psychological. Humans are social. We make friends easily. We share our culture. Maybe people stayed because they liked it here. But, Tai prompted, but it's more than that. There's something biological happening. Something we didn't expect and didn't intend. Nari changed the display. This is a scan of a Valorian who just arrived in human space, and this is the same Valorian after 3 months. Tai leaned forward. What am I looking at? Changes. Small ones at first. The gut microbiome shifts. Brain chemistry alters slightly. Hormonal balances adjust. Nothing harmful. In fact, most species report feeling better, healthier, happier. But the changes are real. What causes it? Nari gestured around them. We do. Humans. Our presence. The food we make. The air we process. Even the emotional way we interact with others. It all combines to create an environment that changes other species on a fundamental level. Tai felt a chill run through them. You're saying humans are dangerous? No, Nari said firmly. We're not dangerous, but we are. Different. And that difference affects others in ways we're still trying to understand. The changes aren't harmful, they're just irreversible. Irreversible? Once someone has been in human space for a few months, going back to their original environment feels wrong, uncomfortable. Like something vital is missing. The longer they stay, the stronger the feeling becomes. Nari looked sad. We didn't know this was happening until about 5 years ago. By then, thousands of people had already changed. Tai stood up quickly. I need to leave. Now, before it happens to me. You have time, Nari said gently. The changes take weeks to begin. You've only been here a few days, but yes, if you want to avoid it, you should leave soon. Tai rushed back to their ship. They needed to report this. The council needed to know. This wasn't murder or slavery. This was something far more complicated. The humans were changing people without meaning to, and those people were staying because they couldn't bear to leave. But as Tai prepared their ship for departure, something stopped them. They had only been here for 4 days. 4 days of investigation. Was that enough? Could they really report back with confidence when there was still so much they didn't understand? And there was something else. Something Tai didn't want to admit. The coffee this morning had tasted incredible. Better than any coffee they had ever had. The music playing in the station corridors made them want to stop and listen. When Wu had smiled and joked with them, Tai had felt welcome. truly welcome, maybe for the first time in their life. Were these feelings real, or were they already the beginning of the changes? Tay sat in their ship for an hour, thinking. Finally, they made a decision. They would stay one more week. Just 1 week. That would give them time to travel deeper into human space, to see more colonies, to gather better evidence. 1 week wouldn't be enough time for permanent changes. They would be careful. They sent a message to the council. Extending investigation. Have discovered important information. Will report in detail soon. The next morning, Tay left Border Station 7. Captain Wu came to see them off. Where are you heading? He asked. New Seoul, Tay said. I heard it's the largest human colony station. Wu nodded. It is. You'll find a lot of answers there. Just be careful, okay? Not because we want to hurt you, but because once you see what we've built, what we've created together with all these different species, it's hard to imagine being anywhere else. Tay flew through human space for 2 days. They passed mining operations where humans and aliens worked side by side. Trading posts filled with goods from 100 worlds. Stations that looked like small cities floating in space. Everything was peaceful. Everything was productive. And everywhere, Tay saw the same thing. Aliens who had come to human space and decided to stay. New Seoul was enormous. The station had multiple levels, hundreds of docking bays, and what looked like parks and gardens visible through transparent sections. Tay had never seen anything like it. The docking procedures were smooth and friendly. Nobody questioned Tay. Nobody searched their ship. They were simply welcomed and given directions to visitor housing. Tay walked through the main corridor of New Seoul and felt their breath catch. The ceiling was high and curved, painted to look like a sky. Real trees grew in planters along the walls. Water fountains made soft sounds. And the smell. It was like flowers and fresh bread and something else Tay couldn't identify. Hundreds of beings moved through the corridor. Humans, yes, but also dozens of alien species. They talked together, laughed together. Some held hands or walked arm in arm. Children of different species played together in a small park area. It looked like paradise. A human woman approached Tay. She was older, with gray hair and a professional manner. Welcome to New Seoul. I'm Ambassador Suji. I manage external relations for this sector. How did you know I was coming? Tay asked. Captain Wu sent word. He likes to make sure our visitors are taken care of. Suji gestured toward a cafe. Would you like to talk? I think I can answer some of your questions. They sat at a quiet table in the corner. Suji ordered tea for both of them without asking. When it arrived, Tay took a sip and felt warmth spread through their chest. It was delicious. You're afraid, Suji said quietly. I'm investigating, Tay replied. You can be both. I would be afraid too if I were you. You came here expecting to find evidence of crimes. Instead, you found something you don't understand. Something that doesn't fit into simple categories of good and evil. Are you doing this on purpose? Tay asked. Changing people who come here? No, we're not. We didn't even know it was happening for years. When we finally discovered it, we tried everything to stop it or reverse it. Nothing worked. Suji leaned forward. We sent warnings to the council, detailed scientific reports, offers to work together to find a solution. Every message was ignored or dismissed as lies, because no one believes you. Would you? If I told you that your people were disappearing not because of malice, but because they genuinely wanted to stay, would you have believed me before you came here? Tay was quiet. The answer was no. They wouldn't have believed it. Stay a while, Suji said. Not as an investigator, just as a guest. See what we've built. Talk to the people who chose to live here. Then decide what you want to report to your council. Tay looked around the beautiful station. They thought about the friendly people they had met, the incredible food, the sense of welcome that seemed to permeate everything. And they thought about the 47,000 aliens who had come here and never left. 1 week, Tay said. I'll stay 1 more week. Suji smiled, but it was a sad smile. I think you'll find that's longer than you expect. The first 3 days at New Seoul passed quickly. Too quickly. Tay had planned to spend their time investigating, documenting, gathering evidence. Instead, they found themselves distracted by small things. The morning coffee at the cafe near their quarters. It came with a small pastry that melted on the tongue. The human who served it, a young man named Minho, always remembered how Tay liked their drink. The music that played in the corridors. Different every day. Sometimes soft and slow. Sometimes energetic and bright. Tay found themselves humming along without meaning to. The conversations. Humans seemed genuinely interested in Tay's homeworld, their culture, their opinions on everything from art to science. And they listened. Really listened. Like what Tay said actually mattered. On the fourth day, Tay forced themselves to focus. They had come here for a reason. They needed answers, not distractions. Ambassador Suji had arranged a meeting with Dr. Jin, the head of Human-Alien Integration Research. His office was in the science sector, a clean white space filled with displays and equipment. Jin was younger than Tay expected, maybe 30 years old. He looked tired, like someone who worked too many hours. But his eyes lit up when Tay entered. "Finally," he said. "Someone from the council who actually wants to listen. Please sit. I have so much to show you." For the next 4 hours, Jin took Tay through every detail of the research: brain scans, blood tests, atmospheric analysis, chemical breakdowns of human food, studies on emotional resonance and psychological bonding. The data was overwhelming, but the conclusion was clear. Humans changed other species just by existing near them. "It's not one thing," Jin explained, pulling up another display. "It's hundreds of small factors working together. The bacteria in our gut produces compounds that other species find calming. Our food preparation methods create flavor combinations that trigger pleasure responses in alien brains. Even the way we emotionally connect with others releases hormones that make social bonding stronger." "Can you stop it?" Tay asked. Jin's shoulders slumped. "We've tried everything. Isolation zones with filtered air, special foods grown without human contact, emotional distance protocols. Nothing works completely. And the more we try to minimize our impact, the more miserable everyone becomes, humans and aliens alike. What about reversing it? Undoing the changes after they happen? We thought we could at first. We tried medical treatments, dietary adjustments, exposure therapy to help people readjust to their original environments. Some of it helped a little. But the fundamental changes, they're permanent." Jin looked at Tay with something like desperation. "We're not trying to trap anyone. We want to fix this, but we don't know how." Tay left Jin's office feeling heavy. This was the truth. The real answer to what happened to the 47,000 missing aliens. They weren't dead. They weren't prisoners. They were changed, and they stayed because going back felt impossible. But would the council believe it? Would anyone? The next day, Ty met Juan. He was sitting in the same cafe where Tay got their morning coffee, staring out the window at the stars. He was a Morphean, with the typical blue skin and large eyes of his species. But something about him seemed different from other Morpheans Ty had met. "You're the investigator," Juan said when Ty sat down nearby. It wasn't a question. "Yes. I was too, 5 years ago. The council sent me to find out what happened to the first investigation team." He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I found them. They were working on a farm colony, growing food and raising families. They didn't want to come home." Tay felt their chest tighten. "What did you do?" "I tried to convince them, argued with them, told them they were under some kind of mind control. They just smiled and offered me dinner." Juan turned to look at Ty. "The food was incredible, best meal I ever had. And the conversation, we talked for hours. About life, about dreams, about things that mattered. I hadn't felt that connected to anyone in years." "How long did you stay?" 3 months. I kept telling myself I was still investigating, still gathering evidence. Then one day I tried to leave, got in my ship, made it to the border." Juan's hands clenched. "I sat there for 6 hours, staring at the coordinates for home. And I couldn't do it. The thought of never having real human coffee again, never hearing their music, never feeling that sense of belonging. It felt like dying. So you came back. I came back, and I stopped fighting it. Juan looked at Tai with clear, steady eyes. The council thinks we're victims, that we've been brainwashed or drugged or trapped. They're wrong. I stay because I want to, because life here is better than anything I had before. Tai wanted to argue, wanted to say that Juan was fooling himself, but they couldn't, because deep down, Tai was starting to understand. The coffee did taste better here. The music did make them feel happy. The humans they had met were genuinely kind and welcoming in a way that felt rare and precious. And it had only been a week. How much longer do I have? Tai asked quietly. Before the changes are permanent? Maybe 2 more weeks. Maybe 3. It's different for everyone. Juan stood up. But the choice is still yours. You can leave now, go back to the council, report what you've learned, or you can stay a little longer and really understand what's happening here. That night, Tai couldn't sleep. They lay in their quarters, staring at the ceiling. The dead man's switch would trigger in 12 hours unless they checked in. They had to make a report, had to tell the council something. But what? The truth was complicated. The humans weren't evil. They weren't even intentionally harmful. They were just different in a way that made other species want to stay near them. Was that a crime? Was that a danger? Tai got up and walked to the observation deck. It was late, so the deck was empty. Just Tai and the stars and the quiet hum of the station. Can't sleep? Tai turned. It was Suji, the ambassador. She was holding 2 cups of something hot. Thought you might be here, she said, offering 1 cup to Tai. It's chamomile tea. Helps with thinking. They stood together in silence for a while, drinking tea and watching the stars. We know we're asking a lot, Suji said eventually. You came here to investigate crimes, to save people, and instead you found something that doesn't fit into simple answers. You're changing people without their permission, Tai said. Yes, we are. And we hate it. Suji's voice was fierce. Do you think we want to be isolated from the galaxy? Do you think we want people to be afraid of us? We're trying to find a solution, but the council won't even talk to us. Because they think you're lying. Because our truth is stranger than their fears. Suji looked at Tai. What will you tell them? Tai thought about Dr. Jin's research, about Juan's story, about the thousands of aliens living peacefully in human space, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. I'll tell them the truth, Tai said. All of it. The biological changes, the psychological effects, the fact that people stay because they want to, not because they're imprisoned. Will they believe you? Probably not, but it's all I can do. Tai checked their chronometer. I need to send my report and reset the dead man's switch. And then I have a choice to make. Tai went back to their quarters and recorded everything. The meetings, the research, the conversations. They held nothing back. When the report was complete, they sent it to the council and reset the timer on the dead man's switch. 48 more hours. That's how long they had before the next report was due. The next morning, Tai walked through New Seoul with new eyes. They saw a human teaching a group of alien children to paint. Saw a crystalline and a human working together to repair a broken water system. Saw friends of different species eating lunch together, sharing food and laughter. This was what the humans had built. Not a prison, not a trap. A community where different beings could live together. And yes, the cost was high. Those who stayed were changed forever. But was it wrong if they chose it willingly? Tai passed by the cafe where Minho worked. He waved and smiled. Morning coffee? Yes, please, Tai said. The coffee was perfect. Exactly the right temperature. Exactly the right flavor. Tai sat by the window and sipped it slowly, thinking. 2 more weeks. That's how long Juan said Tai had before the changes became permanent. 2 weeks to decide whether to leave or stay. Whether to report back to the council in person or become one more missing investigator. Whether to fight against what was happening or accept it. Tai finished their coffee and stood up. They had research to do, people to talk to, questions to answer. and a decision to make. But for the first time since arriving in human space, Tay wasn't sure which choice they would make. The pull to stay was getting stronger, and the thought of leaving felt less like escape and more like loss. Dr. Nari had been right. The changes had already begun, not just in Tai's body, but in their heart. And Tay didn't know if they wanted to fight it anymore. Ambassador Suji found Tai that evening in the gardens, a beautiful space filled with plants from dozens of worlds. "The council responded to your report," she said, handing Tay a datapad. Tay read the message. It was short and cold. "Report inconclusive. Possible contamination of investigator. Sending backup team. Return immediately for decontamination and debriefing." "They don't believe me," Tay said. "No, they don't. And the backup team will face the same choice you're facing now." Suji sat down on a bench among the flowers. "I'm sorry. We keep hoping that if we just explain clearly enough, show enough evidence, someone will listen. But fear is stronger than facts." Tay looked at the message again. "Return immediately." They could do that. Could get in their ship right now and fly back to council space. Could undergo whatever decontamination they wanted. Could try to convince them in person. But would it work? Or would they just become another silenced voice? "What happens if I stay?" Tay asked. "You become one of us. You help us search for answers. Maybe together we can find a way to reverse this or control it. Maybe we can build a bridge between humans and the rest of the galaxy." Suji smiled sadly. "Or maybe you just live a happy life here, doing work you find meaningful, surrounded by people who care about you." Tay had 12 hours before the dead man's switch triggered again. 12 hours to decide their future. Tay didn't sleep that night. They sat in their quarters, staring at the countdown timer. 11 hours, 10 hours, 9. Every hour that passed was another hour of exposure to whatever was changing them. Every hour made the decision harder. At dawn, Tay made a choice. Not the final choice. Not yet. But a choice to understand more before deciding. They went to Dr. Jin's lab early. He was already there, looking like he had never left. Maybe he hadn't. "I want to see my own scans," Tay said. Jin didn't ask why. He just nodded and pulled up Tay's medical data. They had been scanned when they first arrived at New Seoul, part of the standard health screening all visitors received. Jin put the first scan next to one from yesterday. Even Tai could see the differences. Small color changes in the brain chemistry display. Slight shifts in the microbiome composition. Tiny alterations in hormone levels. "How bad is it?" Tay asked. "It's not bad," Jin said carefully. "These changes aren't harmful. Your health is actually improving. Better sleep quality, lower stress markers, more balanced emotional regulation. But yes, the process has begun." "Can you stop it?" Jin was quiet for a long moment. "I can slow it. Specialized air filters in your quarters. A strict diet of non-human prepared foods. Limiting contact with humans. It won't stop the changes completely, but it would give you more time. More time to decide." "Yes." Tay looked at the scans again. The changes were so small, so subtle, but they were real. "Do it. Set up the filters and the diet. I need more time." Over the next week, Tay lived in a strange kind of isolation. They still walked through New Seoul, still conducted interviews, still gathered data. But they returned each night to quarters with filtered air. They ate bland, nutritionally complete meals prepared by machines instead of humans. They kept their conversations professional and brief. It worked, partially. Dr. Jin's scans showed the changes slowing. Not stopping, but slowing. But the cost was misery. The filtered air felt sterile and empty. The machine food tasted like cardboard. And the loneliness was crushing. Tay would pass by the cafe where Minho worked and feel a physical ache at not stopping for coffee. Would hear music in the corridors and feel sadness at keeping themselves apart from it. This was what it would be like to return to normal life after experiencing human space. This emptiness, this sense of something vital missing. On the 8th day of isolation, Tay met someone new. Her name was Kyung, and she worked as an assistant to Dr. Nari. She was a Morphean, like Juan, but younger. She had only been in human space for 3 years. Dr. Nari thought you might want to talk to me, Kyung said, sitting down across from Tai in a sterile meeting room. I went through something similar when I first arrived. You tried to resist the changes? For 6 months, I was so scared of losing myself, of becoming someone different. Kyung smiled. I did every protocol, ate terrible food, avoided humans as much as possible, made myself miserable trying to stay unchanged. What happened? I got sick, real sick. Turns out all that stress and isolation was worse for me than the changes ever could be. Kyung leaned forward. The doctors helped me understand something important. Change isn't the same as loss. I'm still me. I still remember my homeworld. Still love my family. Still have my personality and my dreams. I'm just a better version of me now. How can you know that? Because I'm happier. I'm healthier. I have friends who really care about me. I do work that matters. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm glad to be alive. Kyung's eyes were clear and honest. Isn't that what everyone wants? After Kyung left, Tae sat alone in the meeting room for a long time. The dead man's switch had been reset 3 times now. Each report to the council was the same. Still investigating, gathering evidence, need more time. But time was running out. Not because of the council, because of Tae's own heart. That night, Tae broke their isolation. They went to the cafe. Minho's face lit up when he saw them. You're back. I was worried about you. You looked so sad walking past every day. I was being careful, Tae said. Coffee? Yes, please. The coffee was everything Tae remembered. Rich and warm and perfect. Tae sat by the window and felt tears on their face. Not sad tears. Just release. Like something inside them had been holding its breath and could finally exhale. A human woman sat down at the next table. She was reading a book, an actual physical book made of paper. Tae hadn't seen one in years. Is it good? Tae asked. The woman looked up and smiled. It's wonderful. Poetry from Earth. Very old. Would you like to read some? She passed the book to Tae. The pages were soft and worn. The words were in a language Tae didn't know, but there were translations underneath. Tae read a poem about stars and longing and finding home in unexpected places. Beautiful, Tae said, handing the book back. You can borrow it if you like. I'm Hana. I work at the Diplomatic Center. I'm Tae. I know, you're the investigator everyone's talking about. Hana's smile didn't fade. It must be hard. Being caught between 2 worlds. Not knowing where you belong. How do you know that's how I feel? Because I see that look in the mirror sometimes. I'm human. But I grew up on colony ships. When I first came to New Seoul, I felt like I didn't quite fit. Too different from the Earthborn humans. Too different from the aliens. Just in between. What did you do? I stopped trying to fit perfectly into one category. Started accepting that I could be both. Could love my human heritage and also embrace the mixed culture we've built here. Hana closed her book. Maybe that's what all of us are. In between people. And maybe that's okay. Tae thought about that conversation for days. In between. Not fully what they were before. Not fully what they might become. Just somewhere in the middle. Dr. Jin called Tae in for another scan. The results were expected. Despite the isolation protocols, the changes had continued. Slower, yes, but steady. You have maybe 5 more days, Jin said quietly. After that, the changes will be too extensive to reverse. You'll be like Hwan, like Kyung, like everyone else who stayed. 5 days to decide my entire future. I'm sorry, I wish I could give you more time. Or better yet, I wish I could give you a way to go back and forth freely, to be part of both worlds. Jin looked exhausted. We're still working on it, trying to find a solution, but so far, you haven't found one. No. Tae walked through New Seoul one more time, really seeing it. The parks where children played, the markets where people traded goods and stories, The art galleries where creativity from 100 worlds was displayed side by side. The quiet corners where people sat alone, reading or thinking or just being. It was beautiful, truly beautiful. A place where different beings had come together and built something new. Something that only existed because of the mixing of cultures and species and ideas. But it was also a trap. Not an intentional one, not a malicious one, but a trap nonetheless. Because once you experienced this, once you felt this sense of belonging and community and purpose, leaving became impossible. Tai found Juan again, sitting in the same cafe where they had first talked. He looked peaceful, content. "Have you ever regretted it?" Tai asked, sitting down. "Staying here instead of going home?" Juan thought about it. Really thought about it. "Sometimes I miss my family, my friends from before, the specific way the air smelled on my homeworld. But regret? No. Because the person I was before, the person who would have gone back, I don't think they were as happy as I am now. Even though you didn't have a choice? But I did have a choice. I could have left earlier, could have recognized what was happening and run before it was too late. I chose to stay long enough to understand. And once I understood, I chose to stay permanently." Juan looked at Tai. "The changes didn't take away my free will. They just made one option so much better than the other that the choice became obvious." Tai's chronometer beeped. 4 hours until the next check-in with the dead man's switch. 4 hours to decide whether to reset it again or let it trigger, sending all their data back to the council automatically. If they let it trigger without checking in, the council would assume Tai was dead or captured. They would send the backup team. More investigators would come, face the same choice, and either leave quickly or stay forever. If they reset it, they were committing to more time in human space, more exposure, more changes. And if they left now, immediately, they could still recover. Could still return to the life they had before. Could still be the person they used to be. Tai stood on the observation deck, watching a shuttle prepare to depart. It was heading to the border. Tai could be on it. Could leave right now. Still had time. "It's not too late, you know." Tai turned. It was Ambassador Suji, somehow knowing exactly where to find them. "The shuttle?" Tai asked. "For anything. You can still leave. We won't stop you. Won't try to convince you otherwise. This has to be your choice, completely and totally yours. But you want me to stay. I want you to be happy. If that means leaving, then leave. If it means staying, then stay. But don't choose based on fear or obligation. Choose based on what you really want." Suji stood next to Tai, looking out at the stars. "What do you want, Tai? Not what the council wants. Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" Tai closed their eyes. Thought about the coffee that tasted like home. The music that made their heart lift. The conversations that felt real and deep. The sense of purpose from working with Dr. Jin on research that actually mattered. The friendship with Kyung and Hwan and even Minho the barista. And then thought about going back. Reporting to the council. Being debriefed and questioned and probably not believed. Returning to their old job, their old life, their old self. Which future did they want? The chronometer beeped again. 3 hours. Tai made their decision in the last hour before the deadline. Not the decision everyone expected, not the easy decision, but the right one. They reset the dead man's switch one more time, but this time, they recorded a different kind of message. "Council leader, members of the Galactic Council, this is Investigator Tai. I am sending you everything I have learned, all the research, all the evidence, all the truth about what happens in human space. But I am also sending you something else, a choice." Tai took a deep breath and continued recording. "I am staying in human space. Not because I am forced to, not because I am brainwashed or controlled, but because I choose to stay. And I want to explain why so that you can understand what is really happening here." The message took an hour to record. Tai explained the biological changes in detail, the research, the attempts to reverse or prevent the effects, the fact that humans were not trying to trap anyone, but also couldn't stop what was happening. But more importantly, Tay explained what it felt like, the sense of belonging, the genuine connections, the way life in human space offered something that couldn't be found elsewhere. "You will say I have been compromised," Tay said to the camera. "And perhaps I have, but not in the way you think. I have been compromised by kindness, by community, by the experience of being somewhere I am truly welcome. Is that really so terrible?" Tay paused, thinking carefully about the next words. "I know you will send another team, more investigators, and they will face the same choice I faced. Some will leave quickly, some will stay. But I want to make a suggestion. Instead of sending people to prove humans are dangerous, send people to learn from what humans have built. Send scientists to work with Dr. Jin. Send diplomats to work with Ambassador Suji. Send people who want to understand, not condemn." The recording ended. Tai added all the research data, all the medical scans, all the interviews and evidence. Then they sent it to the council with a simple note. "The truth is complicated, but it is still the truth." The dead man's switch was reset. Tay had 48 more hours before the next check-in, but they already knew they wouldn't be checking in again. This was goodbye to their old life. That night, Tay had dinner with Huan and Kyung. Real dinner, made by human cooks, full of flavors and spices and warmth. They talked about small things. Work and hobbies and a new art exhibit opening next week. It felt normal. It felt like home. "So you're staying," Huan said. It wasn't a question. "I'm staying." "How do you feel?" Tay thought about it. Scared, relieved, sad, happy, all of it at once. Kyung raised her glass. "Welcome to the in-between. It gets easier." The next morning, Tay moved out of their isolated quarters into a regular residence. They stopped the special diet and the air filters. They stopped fighting the changes and let them happen naturally. Within days, the difference was remarkable. Tay felt lighter, happier. The constant tension they had been carrying since arriving in human space finally relaxed. Dr. Jin was thrilled to have Tay join the research team officially. "You experienced the changes firsthand. Your perspective will be invaluable as we continue searching for solutions." "Do you really think we'll find a way to reverse it?" Tay asked. Jin sighed. "Honestly, I don't know, but I have to try. Because as beautiful as this place is, as happy as people are here, they should have the choice. Real choice, not choice influenced by biology." Tay understood. They worked alongside Jin for weeks, studying the data, running experiments, trying new approaches. They were making progress. Slow progress, but progress. And then the council's response arrived. It came as an official transmission to Ambassador Suji, but she shared it with Tai immediately. The council had reviewed Tay's report and all the evidence. They had debated for days. Their decision was harsh but not unexpected. Human space was now officially classified as a Category 5 biological hazard zone. All trade was forbidden. All travel was prohibited. Any alien who entered human territory would be considered lost and would not be allowed to return to their homeworld, even if they wanted to. Humanity was quarantined. "They're afraid," Suji said quietly, reading the transmission again. "I understand it, but it still hurts." Tay felt anger rising in their chest. They didn't even try to understand, didn't even consider working together to find a solution. Fear is easier than understanding, and containment is easier than cooperation. Suji looked tired. "This is what we expected, what we've been preparing for." But there was a second part to the council's decision. They were allowing a limited communication channel to remain open. Scientific data could be transmitted. Messages could be sent. The quarantine was physical, not informational. "It's something," Hana said when she heard. She had become friends with Tai over the past weeks. "At least they're not completely cutting us off." The weeks turned into months. Tay settled into their new life. They worked with Dr. Jin's team, making slow but steady progress in understanding the biological mechanisms. They made friends with people from dozens of species. They learned to appreciate Korean food and traditional music. They even started writing poetry, inspired by the book Hana had lent them. and they sent regular reports to the council. Scientific findings, personal observations, stories from others who had chosen to stay. Most reports went unanswered, but occasionally, there would be a response. A question from a council scientist, a brief acknowledgement from an official, small signs that someone was listening. 6 months after Tay's final decision to stay, something unexpected happened. A ship approached the border of human space. Not an investigation team, not a military vessel. A simple transport ship carrying a single passenger. The passenger identified themselves and requested entry. They wanted to speak with investigator Tay. The passenger was Tay's mentor from the council, an older being named Ren who had trained Tay years ago. Tay hadn't expected to ever see them again. They met at Border Station 7, where Tay's journey had begun. Captain Wu was there too, offering coffee and a quiet room for their conversation. "You came," Tay said, still shocked. "I read your reports. All of them." Ren looked older than Tay remembered. Tired. "The council thinks you've been compromised. They want to dismiss everything you've said. But I know you, Tay. I trained you. And I know you wouldn't lie. Not about something this important. So you came to see for yourself." "I came to understand. And to tell you something." Ren leaned forward. "There are others in the council who read your reports, who see the evidence, who understand that this situation is more complicated than simple containment can solve. We're a minority, but we're there, and we're trying to convince the others to reconsider. Reconsider the quarantine? Reconsider everything, the isolation, the fear, the refusal to work together on finding solutions." Ren paused. "It will take time, years maybe, but your reports are making a difference, slowly, very slowly." Tay felt something strange. Hope. Real hope, for the first time since the quarantine had been announced. "How long can you stay?" Tay asked. Ren smiled sadly. 24 hours. I promised the council I would leave before the changes began. They're tracking my vitals. If I stay longer, they'll assume I've been compromised and everything I report will be dismissed. Then we have 24 hours to show you everything." Tay took Ren through New Seoul, introduced them to Dr. Jin and his research, to Huan and Kyung and their stories, to the markets and the parks and the art galleries, to the ordinary, beautiful, complicated reality of life in human space. Ren asked questions. Good questions. Hard questions. They examined the research with a critical eye, interviewed people honestly, looked at everything with the careful attention of a true investigator. As the 24 hours drew to a close, they sat together one last time in Captain Wu's cafe. "I believe you," Ren said quietly. "All of it. And I understand now why you stayed, why anyone would stay. Will the council believe you? Some will, some won't. But I'll keep trying. Keep presenting the evidence. Keep arguing for cooperation instead of containment." Ren stood to leave. "You did the right thing, Tay. Staying here, sending the reports, telling the truth even when no one wanted to hear it. That's what good investigators do." Tay watched Ren's ship depart, heading back to council space, back to the work of slowly changing minds and breaking through fear. That night, Tay stood on the observation deck with Hana. They watched the stars together in comfortable silence. "Do you think it will change?" Hana asked. "The quarantine?" "Eventually, maybe not in our lifetime, but eventually." Tay thought about Ren's visit, about the minority in the council who were listening, about the slow, patient work of building understanding. Change takes time, but it happens. What will you do while we wait? Keep working, keep researching, keep sending reports. Tay smiled. Keep living? Because that's what this place has taught me. That life is worth living fully, even when the future is uncertain. Months continued to pass, then years. The quarantine remained in place, but the communication channel stayed open. Tay's reports continued. Dr. Jin's research progressed. And slowly, very slowly, attitudes in the council began to shift. New leaders were elected who had read Tay's reports. Young scientists who wanted to study the phenomenon rather than fear it. diplomats who saw opportunity in cooperation rather than danger in contact. After 5 years, the Council made a new decision. They would allow a joint research station at the border between Council space and human territory. Scientists from both sides could work together to study the biological effects and search for solutions. It wasn't the end of the quarantine, but it was a beginning. Tay stood at the opening ceremony of the research station, representing the human side. Across from them stood Ren, now promoted to Council Scientific Director. Between them was a line marked on the floor. The border, the division between two worlds. Ren stepped across the line, extended their hand to Tay. "Let's find some answers together," Ren said. Tay took their hand. Together. The work ahead would be long and difficult. There were no guarantees of success, but for the first time, both sides were trying, working together instead of apart, seeking understanding instead of hiding in fear. And in the end, Tay thought, that was what mattered. Not whether they succeeded immediately, but that they tried, that they chose cooperation over isolation, that they recognized the truth, even when it was complicated. Ambassador Suji was there at the ceremony too. She pulled Tay aside afterward. "You did this," she said. "Your reports, your honesty, your refusal to choose the easy answer, you built this bridge." "I just told the truth. That's all any bridge needs. Truth and the courage to stand on it. Even when it's uncomfortable." Suji smiled. "The 47,000 people who came here and never left, they're not missing anymore. They're pioneers, and you're one of them." Tay looked out at the new research station. At the scientists from different worlds working side by side. At Ren and Dr. Jin already deep in conversation about biological mechanisms and potential solutions. Maybe someday they would find a way to make the changes reversible. Maybe someday people could move freely between human space and the rest of the galaxy without permanent transformation. Maybe someday the quarantine would end. Or maybe the solution would be different. Maybe the future would be more research stations like this one. More border communities where different species could interact carefully. More cooperation and understanding instead of fear and isolation. Tay didn't know what the future would bring, but they knew one thing for certain. They had made the right choice. Staying instead of leaving. Speaking truth instead of comfortable lies. Building bridges instead of walls. And as they watched the sun set on the new research station, Tay felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Real, deep peace with the choice they had made and the life they had built. They were home. Not the home they had started with, but a home they had chosen. And that made all the difference.